Shabbat Shalom, fam.
Shabbat Shalom.
Glad you can join us today for another great lesson. Today we're talking about the power of the tongue. And are you speaking life or death? This is a very important topic, guys. It's so important because a lot of times, and this is not only a lesson for you guys, but it's also for us because we fall into the same scenario, same trap like everyone else. We're not really being mindful of the words that we're speaking. So it's important for us to be reminded of how important our words are.
Yes.
And are we speaking life or are we speaking death? So this is going to be a great lesson, you guys. Tune in. It's definitely a comment. Share the video if you feel someone needs to hear it. And we love to hear your feedback. But when we're talking about this topic, I'm sure you guys have heard examples or experienced it yourself as a child of either your parents speaking negatively about you, to you, or you've seen a friend where their parents are speaking negative towards them. And I'm sure too at that time our parents, they only knew what they knew. That's how they were brought up. 80s babies, 70s babies, we came up in a rough generation. Totally different from now. So
wasn't that like the party era?
Party era, yeah, especially for our parents. They came up in that time. Yeah, so our parents, they only gave us what they were taught or what they were shown. And I've heard this story of a parent, and a lot of times it's not so much and we're going to talk about this also, it's not what our parents say, but sometimes it's what they don't say. They're not encouraging us. They're not being positive. But I've heard the story where the mom was telling the son that, hey, you're negative. I mean, you're stupid. You don't know any better. And it just always would just say it was nothing positive, like you're dumb, you don't have common sense. And I'm sure the parent felt like they were just joking about it, but that stuck with the child for like their whole lives, and it affected them as an adult. And that's the things that we're talking about. Is are you speaking life or death? Even if you feel like you're joking about it, it's not a joke. Words have power, and the scripture talk all about that. And you've heard of a story also about about the child, the parent talking negative to the child.
Yes. Yes. There was really not a story. It's somebody that I actually know. But the person, the child used to always, well, I'm gonna just say their parent used to always curse them out. They would call them all kind of, I'm sure you guys would know what I'm talking about, B's and H's. And just really like derogatory names. And I always used to, like wonder, like, wow, how could a parent do that? Because I never came up that way. It's different for every child. And I would witness it, and I was like, wow. But it was a lot of times you ain't nothing but a B, you ain't nothing but a H, which like the word for whore. And that would affect the child. The child would cry and would be like, I can't believe, how could my parent, I'm trying not to give too much away, but they would ask, how could my parent talk to me like that? I don't understand. And it would affect her big time. It would, and it would affect the way she would dress, the way she interact with guys. So it does affect our children, and it did affect her later too in life with the type of men that she entertained. But it does matter.
It has an impact, guys, and the part you just said, we're gonna touch on that how it affects us. The words that's not only that you speak over other people, but what you speak to yourself, it impacts you. It affects your thoughts. It affects what's in your heart. All those things is impacted just from the tongue, from the words that we speak, or the words that we speak over people. So that's a great story, right? Subconsciously.
And, it's not always a situation with a parent. We just want to say that too.
Right.
We're talking about a parent to kind of give an example of the power of the tongue and the words that we speak over people in general, period. But that's why we were, we just wanted to give an example. But it could be anybody.
Right. I'll give an example. A story. I always tell you about this when we're talking, Sharon. When I was in the 6th grade, and I'm sure you guys have heard story, have an example of your own. When I was in school in the 6th grade, I'll never forget this teacher. I was in class, and the kids were acting up, and this was an African American teacher, a male, and the guys, they were cutting up in class, being the class clowns, and I was always like the quiet type and to myself, but in this instance, I was cutting up with them, so he got mad. The teacher was like, "Son," he's like, you gonna be a ditch digger. And he said it so mad, and he was mad and angry at me. And I'll never forget them words when he told me that. I'm like, wow. And thinking back on it now, I'm like, that teacher actually told this. I was in the 6th grade at this time. I'm like, this guy was so angry that he spoke this over me, and that kind of like motivated me more to be like, nah, I'm gonna be in my books, and I'm gonna be much more than a ditch digger. So it's showing the power of the tongue and speaking life. How, especially when it's coming from an older person onto a child, that impacts them negatively or positively.
It just, for you it was positive, but you hear many stories of children who someone spoke something negative on, and it literally impacted their life in a negative way.
Exactly.
I've heard stories of some that turned to drugs later in life, or who matter of fact, I have a story. I have a family member. And I remember when I was young, I always wanted, because of what I went through in my family of watching my father abuse my mother, I always wanted something different for my life. But one thing that Yah had put in my heart since a child was to help people heal from pain. And I remember that I used to draw pictures of nurses, and I would put it on my wall, and I would visualize, because at the time I thought that was the only way for me to be able to help people to heal from pain, was to become a nurse, because I didn't have anybody teaching me about college. I didn't have anybody teaching me about degrees and what you can go to school for, or how, any other ways. So I'm never going to forget this. Because when I got to high school, because I had a troubled childhood. I was more of like violent. Because I came up in a home with abuse. And a lot of times when children come up in a home with abuse, either they'll be in relationships with somebody who have abused them, or they become abusive. But this was way before my husband and before I started maturing and growing. I was a child at the time. And I remember when I got to high school, I started changing my life, but not right away. In my freshman year, I remember this principal. And this principal, she used to tell me all the time, because sometimes, and the reason why we so transparent and tell our story, because we're not no believers that try to come on here and act like we're holy and endowed.
Exactly.
We are going to tell you the truth of our past, because it says Yahushua came for the sick.
Exactly.
It came for them, for those who need him. I need him.
Exactly.
We need him. So I needed him, and I still need him today. So this is why we can tell the truth of where we come from. And for me, I remember, like, I used to dress, a certain way when I was a child, because I never had no one told me.
Exactly.
You shouldn't be wearing that. You shouldn't dress like that. I seen it all around me. So I remember when I got to high school, I was starting to mature from that, but I still had the little dresses on and, whatever. And I remember this principal. She used to come up to me and she used to say, "Why?" She's like, "You know what? Call home. Tell your mama to come and get you." Or she said, "Walk home and go change your clothes." She said, "I don't understand. You're too beautiful for that." She said, "You worth more than that."
Wow. Speaking life.
Speaking life. But I never heard anything like that before in my life. Because I did not come from that. And I know my mother meant well, but that's just not where I came from, because she had dealings with her mom. Well, she never really...
Her mom spoke to her negatively.
And she never had that. So she was really being the best mother that she knew how to be to me.
Yep.
Because she didn't have none of that. She couldn't even have conversations with her mom. So I remember she would tell me that, and that would stick. I would go home, and I remember I used to tell my mom, she keep picking on me. She keep picking on me. I don't know why. Right. She must be jealous. Now I'm like, now I look back, I'm like, my goodness, how a grown woman going to be, a principal going to be jealous of a child that she's trying to help?
A freshman.
And this woman used to dress her tail off, very mature. I mean, not classy. Mature, but she classy. That's what I meant. Very classy. And, you know, she was decent and modest and everything. But I didn't understand that because I never had that spoken to me.
Right.
And about a year later, when I tell you, my life completely changed. And I started dressing more modest. I started, you know, that's when I started changing. But it was because a principal, she wasn't even a family member of mine. But she spoke life into me. And that's when I was like, okay, now I'm going to graduate. I was so motivated and excited to graduate from high school.
Right.
And I'm never going to forget. The day of my graduation, I was so excited. I already done signed up for college, and I said I'm becoming a nurse because remember what I wanted to be when I was a child. And then I have this family member who was a male, and I looked up to him. And he came, I'm never going to forget, I was at somebody else's graduation because they had just graduated in nursing. It was one of my family members. So I'm looking and I'm like, man, I'm going to become a nurse. And I'm never going to forget, he said, you see these nurses here? What color are these nurses? Because my cousin, she had a picture with all of the nurses on it that graduated. And I was like, well, he was like, what's the majority of the color? I said, well, they're all white. They're all Caucasian. He said, exactly. How many blacks do you see? I said, well, one, because it was my cousin. He said, well, I want you to know that not many of you, that people that look like you, graduate in nursing. So you may want to reconsider. And when I tell you how it affected me, I completely changed my major. I didn't want to become a nurse anymore, but I didn't have that father figure in my life or somebody, you know, like speaking life into me and encouraging me to keep going, don't give up, and yes, you're gonna become, you know, like just lighting that fire in me.
Exactly.
So it completely, like, some people to motivate, like you got motivated in a positive way, but for me, I got motivated in a positive way with the principal, but with that family member who I looked up to, discouraging.
Yeah, that's powerful. And that's what we're talking about, guys. A lot of times too, that's kind of why, like, we repeat a lot of things. They say repetition is the mother of skill, because it's important to hear these positive things, because the world, our family members, friends, they're gonna speak, a lot of time they're gonna speak death of us, especially the walk that we're in. They're gonna speak negatively about us. So again, that's why we always come on here promoting truth, promoting Yah, for you guys to build that closer relationship with him and come out of religion, not have that religious mindset. And that tongue, that is, a lot of the stuff is a religious mindset, the things that we speak of, a lot of that we took from Christianity and the church. So let's dive into it. And you guys, you just heard some powerful stories. Let us hear your stories. Put it in the chat. Put it in the comments. I know we all got them. Like you said, none of us are perfect or infallible. So we'd love to hear your examples. Hebrew word for tongue is lashon, and that's H3956. It means babbler, evil speaker, language, talker. Says used literally as an instrument of licking, eating, speech. And figuratively, now listen to this, speech, a fork of flame, a cove of water. So one, it could be a fork of flame speaking death, or a cove of water, which is calmness, peace, tranquility, stuff like that. So the tongue could be used for either one. And that's what we're talking about in this lesson. And guys, I mean, the tongue, it's one of the smallest parts of our body, but it controls so much. like I was saying, it impacts our thoughts and impacts our body, our mood, how we feel, just because of what we said or the things that we're saying, the things that we're telling ourselves. These things all have power, guys, and we have to be mindful and be aware of the things we speak. And like we were just saying, we in the same boat. Sometimes we have to catch ourselves. I have to be like, babe, you have to speak positive. And we're going to talk about that later also. It's when those thoughts come, negative thoughts come, or you hear something negative or whatever, negative news, and we're all human, it impacts us. We don't like to hear these things. We don't like to deal with them. But that's when you have to speak positivity and speak scripture. Yah has plans to give us a hope and a future. He has plans to prosper us. You have to have these things automatically in your mind. That way you can combat those negative thoughts, those negative words.
Absolutely. And we've done a message on Job,
right?
Where we talked about this, but as believers, like we said in that message, we think that because we come into the knowledge of the truth, some of us, we think that everything is going to be perfect in our lives.
Exactly.
But the reality of it is that's not the truth. You're going to get some attacks by the adversary because he don't go after the world because he already have them.
He got them. Easy.
He comes after us believers.
Yeah. He wants to make us doubt.
Absolutely. Just like Job, what he tried to do to him. So we have to be very mindful of that,
Yep. The scripture, what you was just saying, the scripture we're going to talk about, it kind of covers everything. This is in James. James chapter 3, verses 1 through 18. You want to read that?
Yes, it says, "My brethren, let not many of you become teachers, knowing that we shall receive a stricter judgment. For we all stumble in many things. If anyone does not stumble in word, he is a perfect man."
And we know only one was perfect, and that was Yahushua.
Right. "Able also to bridle the whole body. Indeed, we put bits in horses' mouths that may obey us, and we turn their whole body. Look also at ships, although they are so large and are driven by fierce winds, they are turned by a very small rudder wherever the pilot desires. Even so, the tongue is a little member and boasts great things."
Pause right there. That's so positive. Let's go ahead.
No.
Okay. Yeah, that's so powerful, guys. Is what I was just saying, that the tongue is like the smallest member, one of the smallest members on our body, but it controls the whole, our whole being, our thoughts, our mind, our heart, how we feel, how we act. This small thing, and think about it, even controls like the foods that we put in our mouth. Think about it when you go to eat something. you put something in your mouth because of how it tastes on your tongue. You don't really grab food because it's food. Now you worried about how it's gonna taste on the tongue. And the people that create these foods, they know all that. That's why they make these foods taste a certain way.
Full of sugar, full of salt.
Yeah, because they know it's addicted to the tongue and to your body. So the tongue, it controls it, like it controls everything. Our body, mind, thoughts, everything. So,
right.
Yeah.
So James 3 1, and this one is at 5.
Verse 5.
Up. Yeah, verse 5. "Even so, the tongue is a little member and boasts great things. See how great a forest a little fire kindles? And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity." Oh my.
Wow.
"The tongue is so set among our members that it defiles the whole body."
What I was just saying.
My goodness. "It sets on fire the course of nature. It is set on fire by hell. For every kind of beast and bird, of reptile and creature of the sea is torn and has been torn."
It's tamed.
It's tamed. I don't have on my glasses, y'all. "Is tamed and has been tamed by mankind. But no man can tame the tongue.
Wow.
It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. With it we bless our Elohim and Father, and with it we curse men, who have been made in the similitude of Elohim.
Wow.
Out of the same mouth proceed blessing and cursing. My brethren, these things ought not to be so. Does a spring send forth fresh water and bitter from the same opening? Can a fig tree My brethren, bear olives, or a grapevine bear figs. Thus, no spring yields both salt water and fresh.
Wow.
This is powerful.
You know what this reminds me of, guys? This reminds me of, and we hadn't even thought about this, the teaching that we did last week about you proclaiming Yah, but your heart is still wicked. This is saying, like, out of one mouth, you praising Yah, proclaiming Yah, blessing him, but then on the other side of your tongue, you're cursing your brother. And that's exactly what we was talking about. So that we have to be mindful of that. That's why a lot of time we mention to you guys that you have to be careful who you listen to and what you're putting out there, because you have to be aware of that tongue. Because this thing, and we're going to give an example of that. This, when you start with that tongue and you speaking death over people and negativity, that leads to other things. That puts you in a cycle, more sin. That I think the scripture says it too. Once you babbling and you keep speaking like that, sin is it has to come. That's what's next. That's what flows next.
Right.
So. And
it says, it is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. Little bitty tongue, and remember too what it says about the rudder. A rudder on a ship is very small,
but it controls the
whole thing. So that's telling us right there that our tongue really controls, because it says in here, it controls the course of our life.
Yep, exactly.
You know, so.
And it not only controls us, it controls the environment. And we're gonna share some awesome, examples and stories of us speaking things, positive things, and how it changed the whole environment.
Right.
Proverbs 18:21 says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruits." So it says death and life. So which one are you going to love? If you love the death part of it, you're going to eat its fruits.
Right.
If you love life, speaking life, you're going to eat its fruits. It's two different things, guys. So then that's what we want you guys to be aware of. What you speak, the things you say. Matter of fact, let's go into that example of we have the story of one year we had just started planting a garden. You know, we made the garden bed out all nice, everything, and then put some what we planted: tomatoes, cucumbers, spinach.
Yep. And some lettuce.
Yep. So some of them wasn't growing, but the cucumbers were growing like wildfire.
Like wildfire.
Yep. And we didn't even have the time to pick them. Like as soon as we would pick them the next day, it would be full again.
Right.
We was like full.
They started dying because it was getting so it was producing so much, and we just couldn't keep up. So what happened? I started complaining. I'm like, man, this is a lot. That's a whole lot of cucumbers. I'm like, man, what we gonna do with all of these cucumbers?
Right.
Instead of thinking about, because I was starting to give some away, but on first I wasn't thinking about that. I was just thinking about like, oh boy, I gotta go pick some cucumbers again today because it's gonna die, and what I'm gonna do with all of this, and you want to finish?
Go ahead.
And actually, that year it produced a lot.
Yeah.
But guess what happened? This year. Nothing.
We didn't get not one cucumber.
And I was like, where my cucumbers?
Yep.
I want some cucumbers. I can't believe it. Not one came this year.
Yep. Because we were speaking negatively about it, complaining
when y'all was giving us abundance. Yep. And I started realizing what to do with it. The first time, and I was starting to give some, but then I still was complaining, and now I was like praying. I'm like hoping that we can get some cucumbers. But I understand now, because when y'all gave us the abundance, what happened? I'm gonna say I was complaining about it.
Right.
But I learned the lesson. I bet you next year I won't.
Exactly.
Y'all willing?
I'll give a story too that just when you were saying it reminded me of when you had your business online a long time ago. This was a long time ago, many years. And you had so many orders coming in.
Goodness.
Yep. And you was like, man, I got all these orders. And
yep.
I wish I'd get a break. And not soon after that, zip.
Everything just stopped. Everything just, when I tell you stop, mean stop.
Yep.
And it never got back to where it was.
Exactly.
And I was like, wow. Now this was like some hair bow stuff I was doing for my little girl because she was a baby at the time. So I was like, well, I'm trying to help mama save money and stuff on their hair bows and showing them how to make it. When I tell you it stopped, oh my goodness, dry.
Like
I
somebody
said,
just pull the faucet and cut the faucet off.
I said I won't ever do that again.
No.
And then we have something positive though.
What's that?
The okra.
Right.
I love
totally
okra.
Different, right?
Okra is popular in the South. That's my number one favorite food in the world. My husband know I love okra. I eat it any kind of way.
Yep.
And this year we planted the okra late.
Yeah.
Like last year we planted it in time, and I think we did it 2 years in a row, and it was always abundance. But this year I planted it late.
Yeah.
And it took forever to grow. I literally was starting to feel like we was even saying it was like, I don't know if it's gonna grow. Maybe we planted it too late. This is not normal because okra usually produce quick. And it was like, what in the world is going on? And I remember the power in words. And I remember what happened with the cucumbers, how I was speaking negative over those cucumbers. And I said, let me try something new, because I've also heard stories about that too, with speaking over things.
Plants,
you know, plants,
animals,
animals too, living things. And I said, let me speak to this okra. And I literally went outside one day. I went outside, and when I tell you, I went and I prayed over that okra, and I was asking for abundance. I was even saying, you know, thank you for producing so much okra. Thank you for the abundance. I said, you are growing beautifully. And it wasn't even to that point yet, but I started speaking to that whole okra garden. And about a week later, a flower was produced on there. And when I tell you, I ran in the house, and I was like, guess what? I was so excited. I said, I see a flower. I seen actually a few of them. And when I seen that flower, I showed it to him. I was so excited. And then next thing you know, it just started producing like crazy. It was beautiful. So
that's the power of speaking life. I'm gonna put a picture of it too. I took a picture of, and this year too, spoke so much life into those plants. I mean, these things grew up. They probably about 10 foot tall. They never grew that high before, and I mean, they lasted a long time. They never produced that long either. So we was like, wow, just
that was
couldn't
the
believe
most
it.
abundance we've ever had.
Exactly.
It was,
so and we wouldn't complain in this time.
No way.
Every week, at least about 2 or 3 times a week, I was going out there and pick them and stuff, and I was like, wow. And I was just every time I'd come outside, look at them, I'm like, wow, they still growing. So that goes to the power of speaking life, guys.
Yes.
That's why what we're trying to say is you have to be cautious about the words you say. You just can't just blurt stuff out, just like how we blurted out, it's too much cucumbers. Instead of thinking and being aware, wow, we got abundance. Flipping how we think and thinking of abundance instead of, oh, this is a hassle. We have to speak life into situations, guys. Proverbs 21:23 says, whoever guards his mouth and tongue keeps his soul from troubles.
From troubles.
We have to guard our mouths, guys. Guard our tongue, especially. It's just very, very, very important. That's like I said. We caution people, especially on the internet, because a lot of internet people can hide behind profiles and stuff like that. You don't even know who these people are, and they just going around trolling and putting up negative stuff. You're dealing with people like that. That's why we try to come on here, show you guys who we are, relate to you guys, because we're just like you guys. We've been there. We just have a lot more experience. We've been in this truth longer. And we just caution you guys all the time of be careful who you listen to, especially those who are promoting negativity or saying stuff in certain ways. They're speaking more death than life. You have to be aware of these people, because a lot of times you think, oh, they're just talking about them. But guess what? They're going to flip on you too. So then the Bible warns us to be careful of these people. Be watchful of babblers who just go around just speaking freely. Scripture tells us, throughout scriptures, it tells us to guard our tongue. Proverbs 29:20 says, do you see a man hasty in his words? There is more hope for a fool than for him. And when they say hasty, that means quick. Man that's quick with his words, just speaking freely, speaking off the top of his top of the dome or anything like that. So you have to use caution, guys. It's very
all of us, yes.
Proverbs 15:1-4. You want to read that?
Yes. It says, a soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. The tongue of the wise uses knowledge rightly, but the mouth of fools pours forth foolishness. The eyes of Yahuah are in every place, keeping watch on the evil and the good. A wholesome tongue is a tree of life, but perverseness in it breaks the spirit.
Says a wholesome tongue is a tree of life.
This word cuts deep. Oh,
a wholesome tongue is a tree of life.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. We have to speak life into situations. And like I said, we're all humans.
Right.
We're going to get bad news. Things going to happen to us that we don't like. But we have to be that tree of life. We have to be able to kind of snap ourselves out of it.
Yes.
Go pray to Yah and have, like, we'll talk about affirmations, having scriptures.
Right.
Just memorizing our head that if something happens, I'm going to speak these things over my life.
And know that Yah got us regardless of what we are going through.
Exactly. So powerful. Proverbs 10:19. You want to read that?
It says, in the multitude of words, sin is not lacking, but he who restrains his lips is wise. You just touched on that.
Be careful what you say. Be careful. Not only what you say, but who you listen to, and are they wise in how they speak? Are they being careful? Are they just speaking freely?
And for those of us who talk too much,
do we have to be careful?
I talk a lot, so I do have to be mindful and careful.
But I'll say too, you're a great listener. You do listen. You're not just listening to have an answer for them. You're listening to
understand
and understand.
Right.
Yeah. We have to be cautious. And a lot of times too, it's not what we say, but a lot of times it's how we say it. Our tone.
Right.
We have to be careful of that. And sometimes how you know about that is when some people will tell you, like, it's not what you said, it's how you said it. Sometimes it's our facial expression. Think about it. I don't know if you guys have pets, but when you're dealing with a dog, we have 2 dogs. If you talk to them in a certain way, their whole mood change. Think of when you're excited and happy and talking to them sweet and loving. Their tail start wagging. They'll come up to you and all that. They know everything is good. But just shout at them. You see them ears drop, the tail drop. They might take off in the cage. They know when they're in trouble.
Right.
Those dogs are extremely smart.
Yes, they are. And I mean, I'm thinking of our little dog that we have in the house. My goodness, like him, he knows when we telling him what he can tell when we're telling him, like, go sit down. Yep. Like he'll tell us. I mean, not he'll tell us. He'll just, or I might say something like, I don't think so, and he'll just turn around with his little tail hanging, and he'll go sit down somewhere. But just the fact that he know that,
picks up on the tone,
because you know these dogs don't understand these words we're saying.
Exactly. He knows, okay, it's safe, or I have to go somewhere else.
Right.
So again, guys, the tone of how we speak, we have to be aware of that. And also, like I was saying earlier, when you start in that cycle of how you speak and the power of the tongue, speaking life or death, that kind of puts you in a cycle of more sin. It kind of makes you start manipulating situations, kind of manipulating to get what you want because things are not going in your way or whatever. And we have a great example of that with Naboth and Jezebel. You know that Jezebel, she spoke against the prophets. And for her husband, remember he wanted the vineyard from Naboth. Yep. And he was like, nah, I'm not selling. So what Jezebel did, because she wanted her way, she slandered. The scripture talks about that also. The person that's not wise with their tongue, they slander people. So what she did, wrote a letter and slandered Naboth. And she
said, you remember what she said?
She said she wrote it for him to put him in front of to go in front of the court, put him in the front of the people,
Mm-hmm.
and she said, make another prophet, make his sons come out and slander him. Say, oh, he cursed Yah.
Mm-hmm.
And what they did was, because he cursed Yah, they slandered him.
Which he really
Of
didn't
course, he
curse
didn't,
Yah,
yep.
but
They stoned him and killed him. So she's like, she went wake up Ahab
mm-hmm.
and say, look, he's dead. They killed him.
Now you
can get the vineyard. Yeah, now you can get the vineyard.
Mm-hmm.
So again, guys, it's manipulation. It's getting what you want. Slander. Scripture talks all about slander. That's a form of the tongue, the wickedness of the tongue. Slandering your brother so you can get what you want. And we can't do that, guys. And we talked about a lot
no
about
kind of way.
Yeah, no
not
kind
just
of way.
in the brotherhood, the brother
Right.
and sisterhood, but any other way, we should not be trying to slander anyone, our family, friends.
Exactly. It's so true. Because what the scripture says, we talked about it in our last teaching too. That was Matthew 15:18. It says, what comes out of your mouth comes from your heart. That's what defiles a man. So a lot of times, guys, it's a heart thing. If your first response is negative, to say something negative to someone or negative about a situation, you have to check your heart. It's going to be a heart thing. And you have to pray to Yah to fix your heart. So that's kind of what we're trying to make you guys aware of. And we're going to give you ways to come out of that, to do things differently.
And just know that you're not alone.
Yeah, you're not alone.
We all
Like we said,
fallible, but we have
it.
to be aware of
Mm-hmm.
the things that that can cause us to. Because what it said when it said that how when what is it, the tongue, how it could affect our souls.
Yep.
And
Yep.
rather meaning like sin in our life, us
Yep.
producing sin in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So if we know that, then we definitely have to be mindful of that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and not only saying something is bad, saying something negative, but not saying nothing. It's just as bad. Ecclesiastes 3:1-7, it says, to everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to tear, a time to sow, a time to keep silent, and a time to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to know, is this a time to speak or do I keep silent?
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're not saying don't call things out.
Right.
We're not saying that. You definitely have to call out a situation.
Absolutely.
And speak up, because a lot of times too, the devil wants us to be silent on situations.
Absolutely.
Your silence is approval.
Right.
So you have to speak out.
Just knowing how to do that.
Right. And it says, yep.
You want me to
Colossians,
read it?
yep.
Colossians 4:6, it says, let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer each person. And I want to share the Strongs for seasoned. It says for season. You know how it says seasoned with salt.
Right, listen to this.
It says for season. This is Strong's Greek 741. It says, I arrange, make ready, I season, flavor from a presumed derivative of arrow to prepare. Then it got spice. So one thing that I see in here, which is what it means, is really prepare. So to be in preparation. And with salt, remember it says season with salt. Salt is Strong's Greek 217. And it says salt from hell's salt, figuratively. Then it says prudence. Prudence, which means to be sharp, to be thoughtful. So preparing and making sure you're thinking it through before you're speaking.
Exactly. Using wisdom. Not being hasty with your words. You have to be prudent.
And tactful and wise.
And that's what we're saying. That's like what we're saying on our last teaching is, when you come into a brother, especially when we're interacting with each other, is being wise about it, being tactful about it, how you approach them if you don't understand something. And that's not just with brothers in the truth and brothers and sisters in the truth, it's with family members. You have to just be tactful about it. We talked also about when you witnessing to others, you got to be tactful with it. You have to be tactful with it. And guarding you, choosing your words wisely and knowing, okay, are they receiving it?
Right.
Or are they not?
Right.
Should I give my pearls to swine?
Right.
Or should I just dust off my feet and keep it moving?
That can, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And that can also be from a situation too where someone is coming to you with something that they may have heard, or they come in and confront you about something, or whatever that situation is. It's not all the time that happens. If you just, I'm gonna just say mind your business.
Right.
But when I say that, I'm talking about all of us.
Right.
But I'm just saying, anybody could just be coming with you with something, or they could just be coming to you with somebody else's business.
Exactly.
Trying
gossiping.
to talk, gossiping. So being tactful.
Exactly.
You know, when it comes to that, and prudent. You know, like I gotta think this thing through before I respond, because I might say something that can get me in trouble. You know, because that has nothing to do with me. Might be 9 times out of 10, a lot of times it don't even have nothing to do with you. It's just somebody coming and gossiping, want you to talk about the person with them.
Exactly. They're looking for an audience.
Yep. And for somebody to be on their side.
Yep. And sometimes that's all they'll use you for. They don't look to you for nothing else but to be that ear to listen to their gossip, listen to their troubles, listen to their negativity. Yep. They got people in your life that'll do that.
We've heard of that.
We've heard stories.
They'll just come to you only when they want to spill.
When they want to dump
everything on you. And then after they finish,
they gone.
Now that's after you done voice your opinion and you done got involved in it and said a few things that you may not have you should not have said.
Yeah.
And then after they done, bye-bye.
Yeah.
Because that's all they want to deal with you for.
Gossip. So don't even associate yourself with gossipers. Scripture talks against that also. Don't even associate with them. And like we were saying, guys, you have to just speak life, especially in our kids also. We have to speak over them.
Yes. You
gave that example too. I forgot this story too when we were just talking about if somebody is not receiving what you're trying to tell them. This is when I was probably about 10 years ago. I was driving and we had just had our son. And I learned that when you have a child, the safest place for them in the car is in the middle of the car. Think about it. If the car gets hit on the passenger door or any side, the child, it'll be impacted because the child's on that side. So I seen a gentleman, I don't know where I was, on a job site somewhere, and I seen he was strapping his child on the side, right by the door. And I was like, man, I just learned this information. I think it would be helpful for this gentleman. He had a newborn, a brother just like myself, but he was younger than myself. So I thought I went to him humbly, and then it was just saying, look, man, I've been there. I did the same thing just like what you're doing. I threw myself under the bus first. And I'm like, the safest place for your child is like in the middle. I'm like, think about it. If a car hits your car, it'll hit the door and it'll impact the child. And he was like, he was kind of receiving me. He's like, nah. He's like, I got it. Don't worry about it. I'm like, wow.
And then what he didn't know too is my husband on the side of that, he lost a brother.
Yep.
At the age of 17.
Exactly.
In a car accident. And he was on the passenger side.
Yep.
You know, I don't believe I don't think he had a seatbelt on. He didn't have his seatbelt on.
Yep.
So, you know, that's a sensitive, situation for him. I mean, he's not knowing. He's just really offering help, just trying to help him. But
he didn't want to receive it. So, like we were just saying, sometimes you just gotta dust your feet off and say, it's not for them.
Right.
It's not for them. They don't want to receive it.
Right.
And when saying that, like I was just saying about speaking life over our kids, guys, we have to be that fountain, like what the scripture says. We have to be that code for them, that safe place for them, because a lot of times, especially if you're speaking negative to your kids, they don't want to come tell you anything. And a lot of times we wonder why our kids don't share things with us. They don't share stuff with us is because we're being negative, or they think we're going to be negative. You had that story of that lady when she's saying, the kids. Yep.
Yes, I don't remember her name, but I heard her say this, and I was like, "That is so powerful." She was saying how, and it's the truth. A lot of times, our children, they expect for us to be critical, and I'm just not every child. I'm not saying that because every child don't come up that way. Some parents just really pour positivity into their children all the time. But it depends on where you come from. You know, so a lot of times our children do expect that. They look at us and expect for us to be the critical face. So when they getting up from a nap or in the morning, the first thing, it's important for them to know that, you know, good morning. Like when you tell them you interested in them having a good morning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like speaking positive over them. You know, I hope you have a great day today, or just or something beautiful about them that you could tell them about them.
Right.
But instead of just when the first thing when they see you in the morning, did you clean up?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and just start naming everything about them, but you never say good morning.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, good seeing you this morning.
Mm-hmm.
But she was touching on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was very powerful because they already expecting us to be critical when they see us.
Right.
So it's just turning, flipping that and saying, good morning, or just the first time you see them, letting it be something positive that you're speaking over them.
Right.
To show them something different,
Right.
Because again, it's power in words.
Our words have powers. With the tongue has the power to speak life or death.
Mm-hmm.
It's very powerful, guys. Just like the example you gave about the person and their mom that always spoke negative to them. It affects them, guys. It affects our kids negatively. So we have to speak
in their futures
positive,
too.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to impact what they think about themselves and how they feel about themselves.
Oh yes.
Because we know the world is not telling them that. We know the culture is not speaking positive over them. So
also teaching them to compromise.
Exactly.
Come on our side. Be like us.
Exactly. So we're going to talk about how you can combat these things, how you can combat the negativity. And it's with having affirmations, guys. We strong on affirmations. You just print out scriptures, listening to scripture, listening to meditation, just having them on just able to recall them quickly, and having little reminders. You can have them on your mirror, have it on your phone. You should have a bunch of scriptures that you can use. Like one of my favorites is, again, Yah has plans to give us a hope and a future, and has plans to prosper us. So you need to have things like that. Just your favorite scriptures, that when these things come, negative situations come, that's what you repeat to yourself automatically. Having those affirmations, guys, are very important. And scriptures are affirmations. I know a lot of people think, oh, that's self-help talk and positive thinking. And no, that's in scripture. The scripture says, meditate on my word day and night. His word is the scriptures.
Right.
So we gotta have all the scriptures that we can go to that uplift us, exactly.
Yah's promises.
Exactly. So that's the lesson, guys. We hope it was edifying to you. We thought it was an important topic. Power of the tongue. Like we said, we fall into that trap. I know we're all human, guys.
And we challenge each other to help each other, to make sure that we don't take it too far.
Exactly.
When we see, if it's something that we see that, okay, we went with the tongue and we going in an unhealthy direction, then we'll be like,
Yep.
Hold up, back it up.
Yep. Sometimes I'll do it for you. Sometimes you do it for me.
Yep.
So we help each other in that sense, try to balance each other.
Right.
So we hope you have someone like that can balance you and call those things out. That's why it's important.
Absolutely.
So again, guys, we hope that this was helpful. Again, got any questions or anything, email us, comment. We love to hear from you guys. Again, thank you for all the support.
Yes, thank you.
We sure
thank you
appreciate
all very
it.
much.
And again, keep the questions coming. And we love to hear from you guys. And
yes.
we're going to talk to you guys on the next one.
All right, love you guys.